While the Luka-LeBron formalization can be framed as the old giving way to the new, a closer look beneath that narrative reveals a clear power struggle. A player who believes he still has 5 to 6 elite seasons left and carries an ego to match doesn't willingly take a back seat, nor does he quietly accept being phased out. The transition of power within any organization, whether political, corporate, or athletic, is rarely a linear or harmonious process. In the specific context of the Los Angeles Lakers during the 2025-26 NBA season, the acquisition of Luka Doncic has created a historical anomaly. The simultaneous presence of a legendary incumbent who refuses to abdicate and a generational successor who has already been promised the keys to the kingdom. The tension between LeBron James, currently in his 23rd season, and Luka Doncic is not merely a matter of differing playing styles. It is a fundamental struggle over the ideological and functional identity of the world's most famous basketball franchise. While James has publicly utilized a rhetoric of concession, stating that the team belongs to Doncic, the empirical evidence from on-court behavior, statistical distribution, and internal organizational friction suggests a psychological refusal to cede the mantle of the face of the league. The structural foundation of the current power struggle was laid on the night of February 2025, when the Los Angeles Lakers executed what has to be the biggest theft in professional sports, unless the Mavericks were promised a certain first-rounder if said trade were to be executed. By moving Anthony Davis, the co-architect of the 2020 championship, to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for Luka Doncic, the Lakers front office engaged in a high-stakes gamble on the longevity of LeBron James versus the immediate peak of Doncic. The rationale provided by Dallas Mavericks management focused on a defensive philosophical shift, viewing Davis as a premier two-way anchor. However, the move was a lopsided victory for the Lakers. The Lakers secured a superstar 6 years younger than Davis and one possessing a historical offensive trajectory. This perception was exacerbated by the 2025 NBA Draft Lottery, where the Mavericks secured the first overall pick, Cooper Flagg, despite having only a 1.8% probability, leading to widespread speculation that the lottery was a compensatory measure for the perceived loss of value in the Doncic trade. For the Lakers, the arrival of Doncic was intended to provide LeBron James with a co-pilot who could eventually take full control, yet the psychological reality of James's ego has and will prevent this transition from manifesting as a functional reality. As LeBron James enters the final phase of his career at age 41, the tension between his historical legacy and his current utility has reached a critical juncture. James remains the highest paid player on the roster, a fact that underscores his continued leverage over the organization's fiscal and tactical decisions. His $52.6 million cap hit for the 2025-26 season places him at the apex of the team's hierarchy, even as the front office attempts to pivot the franchise's marketing and basketball strategy toward Doncic. The financial commitment to James, coupled with the organizational investment in his son, Bronny James, creates a unique ecosystem of influence that Doncic must navigate. LeBron is bolstered by his billion-dollar net worth, and the influence of Clutch Sports Group allows him to dictate terms that often conflict with the tactical needs of a team centered on a ball-dominant creator like Doncic. A central theme in the Lakers' 2025-26 season is the performative nature of LeBron James's leadership. Publicly, James has been praised by franchise legends and analysts for understanding that it's Luka's team now and for supposedly sacrificing ego in his 23rd season. However, this public narrative has a LeBron problem. Imagine a world where LeBron's ego would allow him to be the Chris Bosh to Doncic and AR-15. The power struggle is most visible in the offensive hierarchy. Statistics from the 2025-26 season indicate that while LeBron James's usage rate has dropped to 24.2%, the lowest of his career, he has not played a single minute without at least one of Doncic or Reeves on the court. This staggering of minutes, implemented by head coach J.J. Redick, is a tactical necessity to prevent James's waning athletic impact from being exposed. Yet, when the opportunity arises, specifically through the misfortune of others, James has shown a recurring tendency to revert to a heliocentric model that prioritizes his individual statistical totals over the team's developmental continuity. The Lakers' loss to the Los Angeles Clippers on December 20th, 2025 serves as a definitive empirical example of the ego-driven behavior that LeBron has shown his entire career. career. Entering the contest, the Lakers were severely compromised by injuries to 3 starters: Austin Reeves, calf strain; DeAndre Ayton, elbow pain; and Rui Hachimura, groin soreness. The burden of leadership fell squarely on the shoulders of Doncic and James. In the second quarter, Luka Doncic suffered a left leg contusion. Prior to the injury, Doncic was visibly struggling, missing his first 6 shots and limping during the latter half of the second quarter. He finished the first half with 12 points on 4 of 13 shooting and did not return for the second half. In the wake of Doncic's exit, LeBron James engaged in a performance categorized as stat padding, aimed at bolstering his GOAT case rather than securing a win. Despite the Lakers trailing by as many as 22 points, James remained on the floor for nearly 38 minutes, attempting 28 shots, nearly triple the volume of any other starter except the replacement forward, Jake LaRavia. The mechanics of this stat padding are evident in the fourth quarter play-by-play. With the Lakers trailing 80-61 entering the final period, the game was largely out of reach for a shorthanded squad. However, James utilized the garbage time environment to score 10 consecutive points at one stage, ostensibly to close the gap, but functionally ensuring he reached a season-high 36 points. James's high usage volume in a blowout loss is a strategic move to maintain his statistical relevance in the shadow of Doncic. The left leg contusion suffered by Luka Doncic in December 2025 is part of a recurring pattern of lower body issues that have plagued him since arriving in Los Angeles. Earlier in the season, Doncic missed 3 games with a similar injury, a time frame that coincided with James increasing his offensive burden. This physiological vulnerability provides James with a recurring power vacuum to fill. During Doncic's absences, there tends to be a deliberate regression to the LeBron-centric system of 2018 to 2023. When Doncic is on the floor, James is forced to play a backseat role, touching the ball for only 4.32 minutes per 100 possessions, a career low. However, the moment Doncic is sidelined, James's touches and usage rates skyrocket. This opportunism is a manifestation of his ego. By remaining in questionable peak physical condition at 41, James is able to outlast his younger counterpart and reclaim the narrative spotlight through sheer availability. The current friction between James and Doncic is not an isolated event, but rather the latest iteration of a career-long pattern of power struggles with elite younger stars. James has historically struggled to truly pass the torch, instead creating environments where younger superstars feel marginalized or subservient. In Cleveland, a 22-year-old Kyrie Irving played a pivotal role in the 2016 championship, yet the relationship disintegrated shortly thereafter. Reports at the time stated that Irving wanted out of Cleveland because he was tired of being treated like LeBron's son rather than an equal partner. This paternalistic leadership style, where James publicly praises a teammate while privately dominating the organizational oxygen, is a clear precursor to the current Luka's team public rhetoric. When Anthony Davis arrived in Los Angeles in 2019, it was widely expected that he would become the face of the franchise within 2 years. Instead, James maintained his status as the primary engine of the team, and Davis was eventually traded for Doncic when the LeBron-AD era failed to produce a sustainable post-2020 successor. The trade for Doncic was, in many ways, an admission that Davis could not thrive under the shadow of James's ego, a cycle that now appears to be repeating with Doncic. The integration of Russell Westbrook was perhaps the most catastrophic example of James attempting to force a fit with a ball-dominant star to preserve his own energy while maintaining his statistical dominance. When the experiment failed, the blame was largely shifted to Westbrook, a pattern of scapegoating that will eventually target Doncic if the Lakers' record falters. The power struggle within the Lakers is amplified by a sophisticated media strategy. James is noted for his awareness of his quote-unquote place in the pantheon and his ability to use media platforms to curate a heroic narrative. Critics argued that the Lakers front office has disrespected James by openly courting Doncic as the face of the franchise, citing their visit to Doncic during the 2025 Eurobasket tournament as openly taunting LeBron. In response, the LeBron camp, often associated with clutch Sports and various media surrogates, has been accused of leaking reports that highlight Doncic's conditioning or defensive lapses to even the playing field in the eyes of the public. This narrative warfare ensures that even when Doncic is statistically superior, James remains the central figure in the conversation, whether as a quote-unquote sacrificing veteran or a quote heroic solo performer during injury crises. The appointment of J.J. Redick as head coach in 2024 was a move that prioritized LeBron James's intellectual preferences over long-term organizational stability. The mini slump in late 2025 has forced Redick into a difficult position, following a series of losses where the Lakers surrendered over 125 points per game. James's unwillingness to adjust to a true third option role, despite the explosive start to the season by Austin Reeves, is a primary source of friction. James can no longer handle the full control of a team's offense at 41, yet James continues to play high minutes that exceed what many believe is healthy for a player of his age. The big three of Doncic, Reeves, and James is less than the sum of its parts, posting a negative plus-minus when all three share the floor. The team is functionally more efficient when Doncic and Reeves are allowed to operate without the constraints of James's presence, yet James's ego and contractual status necessitate his continued high involvement. The left leg contusion is the catalyst for James's power grab that aligns with the broader biological realities of the team. LeBron James' unnatural longevity stand in stark contrast to the reports of Doncic's conditioning issues during his final days in Dallas. By maintaining a six-pack and elite straight-line speed at 41, James creates a visual and functional argument for his continued dominance. When Doncic is hobbling toward the end of a half, James comes through to give his all. This quote, performing of leadership, is a powerful tool in the power struggle, allowing James to frame his high-usage, high-scoring games during Doncic's absences as necessary acts of salvation rather than calculated stat padding. The power struggle reached its institutional apex on June 18, 2025, when the Buss family agreed to sell a majority stake in the Lakers to Mark Walter. Reports indicate that LeBron James was not notified of the sale until after it was finalized, whereas Luka Doncic was given a heads up and publicly congratulated the move. This discrepancy in communication is a clear signal from the front office that Doncic is the quote long-term centerpiece, leading to feelings among those close to James that the organization no longer fully values his contributions. The backlash against ESPN for quietly updating the report to suggest James was notified via representatives only highlights the sensitivity of this topic. James's subsequent stat padding and refusal to cede on-court power can be seen as a direct response to this institutional disrespect, a veteran king attempting to prove his worth to new ownership through undeniable box score production. The Los Angeles Lakers are currently engaged in a zero-sum game of superstar hegemony. On one side is Luka Doncic, a 26-year-old phenom who represents the most advanced offensive engine in the modern game, yet one whose physical durability remains a question mark. On the other is LeBron James, a 41-year-old icon who has defied quote father time and remains psychologically tethered to the role of the protagonist. While James may continue to publicly claim it is quote Luka's team, his actions in the fourth quarter of blowout losses and during Doncic's injury stints tell a different story, one of a legendary athlete who is fundamentally incapable of letting go. If Doncic goes down and the game is out of reach, why continue to play? Sit your old ass down and rest. But as long as these two stars coexist, the Lakers will remain a franchise divided between the promise of the future and the persistent, ego-driven shadow of the past. Like, subscribe, share, and maybe even hype the video. Let me know if you agree with my interpretation of the Luka and LeBron dynamic. Thanks for watching.